Buddhism Core Episode 11 Glowing in Dharma, everyone. Today is August 11, 2020. Today, I will come to teach you about the essence of Buddhism, which is mind. There are still many people who still listen and do not understand. I will come back to talk about the mind again. This mind is a formless nature. The mind is inexplicable in a fictional language. I don't know where the mind lives, but I must use a parable. Let's talk to us that it lives in this lump. This lump is called the body. The nature of the mind is the nature of knowing. There is only one duty to know. There is a movement that happens with the mind. It is called the verb of the mind. It is a movement of the mind that coexists with the mind. The analogy is like water and waves. Water is the mind. Waves or whopping of water are the movements of the water. That's the wave. That's the nature of the water. The wave of the water is like the verb of the mind. The verb of the mind is the movement of the mind. It is a symptom that must be with the mind. It is the verb of the mind that produces the 5 groups of personality. Sometimes we call 5 aggregates. The verb of the mind creates body, feeling, memory, thought, and consciousness. The 5 groups of personality, or sometimes we call the 5 aggregates, were created because of ignorance, the ignorance of the mind. This mind is a natural knower. He is already his purity. He is already perfect. He is never happy. He never suffers. He never received heaven and he never received hell. He had no merit or sin. The mind is above all refinements. It can be called nirvana. It can be called Dharma. It cannot be explained by human language, but I have to bring this English language to speak for us to understand that this mind is a natural knower. So, when there is a natural knower, there is something to be known. What is known is the movement of the mind. The movement of the mind is what is known. The movement of the mind is the state of thought, such as emotions and imagination. This is the movement of the mind. The nature of this mind, a natural knower, has no wisdom. Sometimes we can say our mind is so stupid. In the beginning, this mind didn't have any wisdom. This mind relied on the movement of the mind itself to compose every story, creating my own character that we called soul, our ego, ourselves. Well, the movement of the mind creates the soul, the ego, ourselves. The soul holds on that the soul is a natural knower. A natural knower is a soul. The mind is the soul, and the soul is the mind. In fact, the soul is not the real mind. The soul is the fake natural knower. But the real mind, a real natural knower, didn't do anything with the soul. He just knows his duty to know only. But the movement of the mind gave value to a natural knower. The movement of the mind was the one that brought a natural knower to know his value and flow to know his many stories. When a natural knower has no wisdom, so he was kidnapped by the movement of the mind to make his story up. So the movement of the mind gave him the value that this mind is a movement of the mind. A movement of the mind is this mind. A movement of the mind also creates the five sense doors. The five sense doors, they are the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the body. The movement of the mind sends its stream through the five sense doors to see the form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. When the five sense doors see the sense object, the movement of the mind will give value to that sense object. This sense object is my body. This sense object is my son. This sense object is my husband. This sense object is my wife. This sense object is my parents. This sense object is my house. This sense object is my car. The movement of the mind gives a value to all objects mind, belongs to mind. The movement of the mind is current through the five sense door to value to the objects outside the mind. The movement of the mind gives value to that object to be, I like this object and I dislike this object. Like means you are satisfied. Dislike means you are unsatisfied. When you like that object, you want that object more and more. Your infinity want is called greed. Your greed has no end. When you don't like that object, when you are not satisfied with that object, when you don't like that object because it isn't what you want, you are starting to feel suffering. Suffering is the cause of anger. Greed is the cause of anger. Anger is like the negative side. Greed is like the positive side. Anger is like the head of a coin. Greed is like the tail of a coin. Both greed and anger arise from delusion. Delusion is ignorance. The mind is delusional. The mind is ignorance. The mind does not know that itself is pure. The mind is obsessed with the movement of the mind itself. The mind is lost in the movement of the mind itself. Then the mind is attached by the movement of the mind to give value to all objects that is mine and belong to me. This is ignorant. This is the delusion of the mind. Therefore, both greed and anger arise from ignorance. The mind doesn't know, so the mind flows with the movement of the mind itself to value the sense object. When it is stated that form, sound, smell, taste, and touch are these, give values according to the assumptions, then the ambition arises. When unsatisfactory arises, suffering arises too. As soon as you wanted to soar even more. When you don't like it, suffering, anger, and resentment arise. Therefore, we are born in the cycle of birth and death in these three worlds. These three worlds are the sensual world, the form jhana world, and the formless jhana world. Let's talk about the three worlds. The sensual world is the world of sensuality. The sensual world is the dwelling place of beings that are still immersed in sensual pressures. Sensual pressures are pressures of form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. For example, when the eye sees beautiful flowers, are you satisfied or not satisfied with that beautiful flowers? This is called sensuality. When the ears hear the music, are you satisfied or not satisfied with that music? It is called sensuality. When the nose smells the perfume, are you satisfied or not satisfied with that perfume? This is called sensuality. When the tongue tastes the food, are you satisfied or not satisfied with that food? This is called sensuality. When the body touches the object, are you satisfied or not satisfied with that object? This is called sensuality. The sensual world is the world of obsessing sensuality. Example, our human world. Number 2, the second world is the form jhana world. The form jhana world is the world of form Brahma. Jhana is about deep meditation. The form jhana world is the world of form Brahma, which is the place for one who meditates and is trapped in the form jhana while he is dying. Sometimes I can explain easier, like he did meditation before he will die, so he trapped in the form jhana world. After that, he will be born as a form Brahma in the world of form jhana. The world of form jhana is the dwelling place of form Brahma. And the third world, number 3, is the formless jhana world. Is the world of formless Brahma, which is the place for one who meditates and is trapped in the formless jhana while he is dying. After that, he will be born as a formless Brahma in the world of formless jhana. The world of formless jhana is the dwelling place of formless Brahma. Meditation of the formless jhana is deeper than meditation of the form jhana. But however, all these 3 worlds, the sensual world, the form jhana world, and the formless jhana world, is the dwelling place of the mind that is still lost in the movement of the mind. We practice Dharma and make merit in order to live happily in the world, so that we do not interfere with each other. It is good merit, but this good merit is still caused us to be born in these 3 worlds, back and forth. We still have to cycle through birth and death as infinity. The goal of Dharma practice, the goal of Buddhism, Buddha's goal. He only wants us to be free from the cycle of birth and death, that is, to escape from the 3 worlds, the sensual world, the form jhana world, and the formless jhana world. When we do good deeds, when we make merit, don't hold on to it, don't get attached, don't want to get married, don't get caught up in the goodness. Do it to hope that the world will be at peace. I hope the world doesn't interfere with each other. That's all. When we were born, we must study and understand what the Buddha taught. When you understand that the Buddha taught about non-birth, you have to look down into the mind to see that this mind is not us. This mind is not ours. When you understand that this mind is not ours, this mind is not ours, it's over. It's the end of our mission. The ending means that we wouldn't be born in these 3 worlds. This is the principle. This is a theory. This is the main theme that we must focus on, understanding each other. Keep repeating yourself, keep teaching yourself, keep telling yourself every time, non-birth, non-birth, and non-birth every day. Listen to the Dharma a lot. Listen to all the Dharma that the Buddha taught about non-birth. Only listen a lot. Listen and listen to. We will understand more about the mind. Come back again. Come back again, the mind is a natural knower. The duty of the mind is knowing only. The movement of the mind is the action of the mind. The movement of the mind is a symptom of the mind. The movement of the mind is like the beat of the heart organ. Tuk tuk, tuk tuk, tuk tuk. It's like that. The movement of the mind is a refined idea imagined in fictional language for communication, interaction, studying, working, and learning Dharma to learn about the human world. But don't assume that the mind is real. The mind cannot really be a person. The mind is like the wind. Can you hear the wind? Yes, it's like that. The wind lives in the emptiness. The emptiness is like the mind. The wind is a gesture of emptiness. The wind is caused by the ripple of emptiness. When the emptiness ripples, the wind arises. But the wind is shapeless. It's no shape. The wind has no place to live. The wind is intangible. The wind cannot be stored. The wind happens according to a cause, according to factors. When cause is gone, all the factors are gone too, and the wind is gone too. Then the wind reappears, and then the wind goes off. Then the wind rises again, and then it disappears, changing. The wind is unbearable in its original state. The wind is that there is such a thing as it is. It's just what is known. Because there is a natural knower, so a natural knower knows what it's seen. A natural knower is able to know what is known. A natural knower knows everything is what is known. This is non-self. Impermanence is vanity, the fact that it is unstable, changeable, unable to bear it in its original state is suffering. Anata. Anata is someone called non-existence or selflessness. Anata is just like that. It just was known. It's not as named as what it is. It was some symptom that he belonged to him. He occurs spontaneously according to factors and then extinguished when all the causes were exhausted. He died on his own. It is nothing. It is just a symptom. It cannot do anything with a natural knower. The symptom of the mind cannot do anything with the mind. The symptom of the mind is like the wind. Listen to about the wind again. The wind cannot do anything to the empty nature, right? Even if we throw a nuclear bomb into the emptiness, nuclear bombs cannot do anything about that emptiness. Cannot hurt that space, right? The symptom of the mind is like throwing a stone into the water. It was indeed a violent wave, but that wave could do not thing with the water. Water does the duty of water, that is changing according to caused by a factor known as ripple called waves. But the waves is still water. No matter how high the waves are or how low the waves are, it's just a wave of water. It cannot do anything with water. Same with the mind. The mind is a natural knower. The mind never dies. The mind is never born and ever dies. Even if we are in the cauldron of hell, our minds are not dead. Even if we go to heaven as Brahma, as angels, our mind never knows the happiness of Brahma or angels. While we are in the cauldron of hell, our minds never know suffering and torment too. The mind has a duty to know what is happening only. The real mind cannot speak. The real mind cannot be expressed. The mind has no spoken language. The real mind has an only symptom that we can talk about the mind with each other is the mind only serves to know. That's all. No one owns a natural knower. He was his fullness all the time. He always knew of him. A natural knower knows without holding on, knowing without thinking. A natural knower is the mind. The mind is a natural knower. It's just that it knows. It is owned by no one. The mind cannot be called Anata or cannot be called selflessness. A natural knower is also beyond all theories, beyond anatta. It is beyond all commandments. A natural knower can be called the end of suffering. A natural knower can be called nirvana. A natural knower can be called the Dharma. A natural knower is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. This is our mind, which is the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. But unfortunately, we still do not understand, right? We still do not understand our own minds. We also flow with the movement of the mind, flow with the thinking, flow with the emotions. The mind is flowing with thoughts and emotions all the time. While I am speaking right now, I am using the English language to speak. I am taking the movement of the mind to compose various stories for us to understand. When we listened, we contemplated. This is still the movement of the mind, which is improving your understanding. The movement of the mind is not the mind. Don't forget it. The mind is a natural knower. A natural knower does not improve anything. A natural knower knows what is happening only. It doesn't improve anything beyond knowing. What I am saying right now is a fictional language. A fictional language is improving from the movement of the mind, not from the mind, not from a natural knower. The English language is still an improved thought. When you are listening, you are contemplating and enhancing your understanding of this Dharma, right? When you understand this Dharma, your understanding is still improved from the movement of the mind and from the mind. Don't forget. But a natural knower will be able to appear itself. It must come from the realization of the mind. Realization means realizing in the mind that now we know we are thinking. Realizing that now we are thinking follows the movement of the mind. We know that what we are thinking about in the mind right now. Now we are feeling that way, feeling this way, feeling this emotion, feeling that emotion in the mind. Such as you are missing your mother. You are missing your mother and suddenly your mother's face is appearing in your mind, right? You try to do like this. You are missing your mother's face. Suddenly your mother's face is appearing in your mind, right? Or sometimes realizing that you are missing your friends at the office. Realizing that you are worried about work at the office. Realizing that the movement of the mind is improving the ideas of go to shopping, go to the market, buying vegetables, buying fruits. The movement of the mind is appearing the picture of your favorite food which you are going to buy. Thinking about what your favorite food looks like. Think of spicy papaya salad that you will buy. Do you know that you are thinking in your mind right now? This is what is known as the pulling of the mind to come out of the movement of the mind. A natural knower appears itself. Because naturally, a natural knower always follow with the movement of the mind. Follow with the thinking. is clinking. It's like a natural nerve head jump onto the back of the movement of the mind. So the movement of the mind or thinking takes the natural nerves to create its stories. I, mine, myself. They are encouraging each other to make the permanence of what is known. But whenever we are realizing the mind, we are listening to the Dharma very much. Awareness and understanding arise now while we are thinking now. When we are aware of our own thoughts, our own emotions, and our own feelings that happening in the mind, seeing it once, realizing it once, seeing it immediately, that's how the real mind or our natural knower will come out from the movement of the mind, come out from the following with the thought. A natural knower will eject itself from the movement of the mind. It becomes a natural knower separated from one another. A natural knower is isolated and it sees the improvement of a natural thinker. A natural thinker is improving itself slowly. A natural thinker is the movement of the mind. Understand? Okay? But a natural knower knows that improvement, it knows it is isolated. The mind is liberated from the movement of the mind. It is liberated like this. But this is a temporary liberation or temporary nirvana. Ignorance of the mind was temporarily absent in short time, and then the mind is sucked and it flows back into the movement of the mind again by the power of ignorance. Because we still have ignorance in the mind, right? So we are sucked back and enforced back into the movement of the mind, into the thinking world. The movement of the mind gives value to that understand to be a voice in the mind. Oh, I got it. I understand it. It's like this. When you are summarizing the conclusion of something, when you are judging the value of something, when you are trying to understand what this is, understand or not understand, all of them are still the improvement from the movement of the mind, not the mind. All of them are the ignorance of a natural knower. A natural knower is moving forward by the movement of the mind. Therefore, when you immediately realize, you must not make any conclusion with this realization. If you are knowing that you are concluding judgment, you have to know that you are thinking that way. You think that's it. You understand to like this or do not understand. You are still confused. You still have doubts. You should see this symptom in your mind. You should see this idea in your mind. Your mind should be like this. The mind is aware. The mind is awake. The mind separates itself from the movement of the mind to be a natural knower. As for the movement of the mind, it is only what is known. This is the point at which the mind will develop knowledge. The mind will understand better. The mind becomes the wiser, who gets more wisdom. Wisdom can be achieved through listening to Dharma about the mind a lot. Being aware of the movement of the mind as well as seeing thoughts. When you see the movement of the mind, see thoughts and see emotions in the mind. Many times, the mind will get the wisdom of itself more and more. Miraculous understanding will be happening in the mind. The mind will come up with a miracle phenomenon that you have never seen before. The mind will be light and airy. No doubts, no questions about Dharma anymore. The mind cheers up. The smile of the mind is like this. The mind will smile. This is called the smiling mind or the cheerful mind. The mind will be a knower and be an awakener. The mind is the one who knows. It is the mind that awakens. It is the mind that realizes. This is called The awakening mind, the mind is the one who knows, the one who awakens, the one who rejoices. That's what the mind will be. Dharma practice. We will talk about Dharma practice. Dharma practice so easy is listening and understanding. Listening and understanding the Dharma are called Yoniso. Yoniso in the Pali language means understanding, teaching yourself, and then listening to the Dharma and teaching yourself again. Contemplate the Dharma, understand it, and then listen and teach yourself again. You must tell yourself often, hey, the mind has to wake up. I have to realize the thought in my mind. I have to be aware of the mind. Hey, now the mind is in the kind of this mood. Realizing that the mind is angry, realizing that the mind is happy, realizing that the mind is so, normal, nothing, realizing that the mind is not satisfied. You must realize on the mind often and more often. Sometimes start at 1 or 2 times a day and more, depends on you. You must see your emotions, you must see your thoughts, you must see your thoughts speaking in your mind. Hello, hi. For example, you are sitting and thinking. You are thinking about going to the market to buy things, buy papaya salad, buy street food, buy rice, buy curry, buy vegetables, buy pork, buy mushrooms, buy a duck, and buy chicken. You are thinking about you are buying them at the market to cook and eat at home. Sitting alone, thinking about how to prepare cooking, thinking about the process of cooking, and then a vision of your plan arises in that thinking. You sit and think and have a vision of what kind of food you will cook. I will cook tom yum goong, I will cook green curry, I will cook Thai food for my mom, my son, and my husband. You are thinking of the story of cooking, and then you go out to buy the ingredients for cooking. You go out to the market to make the thinking happen as you're imagined at home. Can you be aware while you sit and think like this? Realize that you are thinking and contemplating that thinking at that moment. While you are shopping in the market, you are seeing what is known. What is known means all things that are perceived through the eyes. What is known in the market, such as fruits, vegetables, herbs, seasoning, and everything is on the shelf. All things in the market are what is known. When you see what is known in the market, the eyes see the morning glory in the fresh market, and you ask the seller, how much do you sell? Cannot you see that you are thinking this way? You had thought already, and then you spoke to the seller. Actually, those things are just objects. It's just something that's been known. The eye see the object, the ear hear the sound. It's a sound. Whatever sound it is a sound. It's an object. Whatever object it is an object. But we value that object as is morning glory. Morning glory is so fresh, so beautiful. How much is this morning glory, the seller? We define its name is morning glory already, and we believe that it's very morning glory, really name of it. Yes, in the hypothetical world, in the human world, we have to use the English language to call this vegetable morning glory. It is morning glory. We must use this word for the same understanding with each other. But in the perspective of Dharma, we have to realize that, hey, here we are giving value. We are valuing this object is called morning glory. We are valuing what the place is. We are valuing whether the seller is a woman or a man. We are valuing morning glory as expensive or cheap. Oh, so expensive. Why are you selling so expensive? Can you discount? We are varying whether it is expensive or cheap, expensive and cheap. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't exist. What does expensive look like? What does cheap look like? Even the morning glory we saw there, this object is not named morning glory. I am morning glory. I am morning glory. It doesn't say anything, right? Actually, that object in the market is not called morning glory. It's just an object. It just was being known by the eyes, but a hypothetical language must verify that it is morning glory, and we seriously believe that morning glory actually exists. This object is your being morning glory. Can you try to grab morning glory with your hands? This is morning glory. This is morning glory. Who says this word? Look at your hand and look at it and feel it in your hand. That thing doesn't say it's morning glory, right? You just feel you are touching the surface of something in your hands and your eyes see that object on your hands, right? Then the thoughts say that this is really morning glory. This is morning glory. This is morning glory. Because my mom tells this is morning glory, so I believe this is morning glory. This morning glory is called Chinese morning glory. Thinking more, this is Chinese morning glory. Let's cook it as stir-fried morning glory. It's very delicious, very yummy. Yummy, yummy. You are giving its value an idea of how to cook it. But when you caught the surface of the morning glory, you just felt you were touching something. That thing also didn't say what it was. Your thought was saying this is Chinese morning glory. Your thought continues to value a story of morning glory. When you value something, you will be happy and you will be suffering from that thing immediately. When you value a piece of paper and value that paper, this is 500 money. This is money. As soon as that paper changed its color, it became something else called 100 money or 20 money. You take 500 money into your wallet and pick it up and you go shopping. And then you pay 500 money to the seller. The seller must give the change to you because the product price is 100 money. So the seller must give the change to you for 100 money, right? Because you paid 500 money. When you paid money to the seller said, oh, that it was not enough. You must pay money more. Another 80 money is missing. You were unsatisfied with what the seller said, so you got angry with the seller immediately. You shout, how can it be 80 missing because I paid you 500? The seller was angry with you and argue with you. How that paper is 500 and is just 20? It's an argument, quarreling because of value. The value of that paper is money and this price. Money is a cause of quarrels arising. Happiness arises and suffering arises because of the value of paper. Sometimes you are satisfied with something and then you get happy from doing something with that thing. So you feel in a good mood. Sometimes you are dissatisfied with something and then you get upset because you cannot be doing something with that thing. Your giving value to that thing is a cause of your happiness and your suffering. Happiness and suffering came from your thinking, from your thought, from the movement of the mind. Can you realize the thought? Realize that you are praying with the thought. Realizing that you are flowing with the thought. Can you see the thought? The point is the thought in the mind. I do not tell you that you must not value. You must not think anything else. This vegetable as morning glory. I do not tell you that you must not value this paper as 500 money. You must, everyone must, every human must give value to it. In the human world, you have to use giving a value to it. Otherwise, humans can not shock and communicate with each other. In the human world, it has to be varied as normal, but do you know that you vary it in your mind? The point is the realization in your mind. Do you know what you are thinking? Do you realize that you are valuing it? Do you see the symptoms that you are creating thoughts? Do you see the symptoms that you are flowing with the thoughts? When you are thinking about something while you are working, you are thinking about your mom. Oh, I forget, I have to pick up my mom today to see the doctor. My mom has an appointment with the doctor today. Oh my God, my mom's illness is not better. This is what you are thinking about your mom while you are working at the office. Cannot you see that your mind is coming up with this thought, and then you are explaining this thought? This thought is expanded more and more over. You have already flowed with the meaning of this thought. You have already believed that this thought really exists. And the person you miss is your mother. Then the mother really exists. That is, you are thinking that the object is really your mother. Existence is apparent by the thought. All objects are known by a natural knower. The mind is a natural knower. The mind works the duty of knowing, and the mind has the movement of the mind to vary that which is known. What is this? What is that? These definitions of all objects are used in the human world to communicate and live together happily and not interfere with each other. The definition of this object is my mom. The definition of this object is my son. The definition of this object is my body. The movement of the mind varies all definitions of all objects and abstracts. Can you see that you are giving value to something? The value is the definition of something. Do you have a dog? You value that dog is your dog. You love this dog very much. You bought it very expensive and raised it for 6 years. Oh, you love this dog so much. But one day this dog lay dead on the side of the road. For some unknown reason, it lies dead on the side of the road, but as soon as you see your dead dog, you cry and you are angry. Who kills my dog? Who crashes my dog? Who hurts what I love? Who hurts what I cherish? Hurts what I raised? Because you value that object like a dog, and then you value this dog as your dog. Do you see the existence of yourself? Do you see the existence of your things? The existence of yourself and your thing is caused by the movement of the mind. Giving value to something, and then the mind holds on to this value, which is given by the movement of the mind. This is ignorance. The ignorance of the mind causes the mind to cycle through birth and death, infinity. Therefore, solving or destroying the ignorance of the mind in order to free the mind from the cycle of birth and death, it is called the cessation of defilements. The parents of all defilements are avijja, the ignorance of the mind. We must extinguish the root cause. Do not waste your time extinguishing each defilement, because all defilements do not actually exist. The one that created all the stories was ignorance, because of the ignorance of the mind. So, a natural knower has flowed back to the movement of the mind, like a natural knower jumped and rode on the movement of the mind and flowed along with the movement of the mind to give value to all objects and all abstracts, such as that object is a dog. That's a dog. Is my dog. I bought this dog so expensive. I have raised this dog for 6 years. The movement of the mind gives value to a time. There is a time that arises because the movement of the mind is giving value to dark and light. Dark and light are defined that this is Monday, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday, this is Thursday, this is Friday, this is Saturday, this is Sunday, and come back again on Monday again. What does Monday look like? Does it say today is Monday? I am Monday. No, each day is just dark and light, but we vary that this is Monday. When someone told me it was Monday, this was Tuesday. Alright, now we are arguing, fighting and killing each other because of giving vary to dark and light, even though each day doesn't say what day it is. Each day only has dark and light. Even dark and light have been varied by the movement of the mind, but we need to use this value, otherwise we cannot talk to each other, cannot talk about it. This time is given a value that it is dark. This time is given a value that it is light. All concrete objects and all abstract objects are given vary by the movement of the mind in order to communicate. Otherwise, we cannot talk to each other. So the movement of the mind gives value to everything, including outside and inside the mind. If we understand and see the movement of the mind is giving value to something, seeing that there is emotion is given value by the movement of the mind right now, this is a situation called the mind sees the mind. I mean, the mind sees the movement of itself. This situation will be happening because of our awareness of the mind. When we realized in the mind at one moment, we realized that, hey, I am thinking about what? I am feeling what emotion? I am thinking about what picture? I am thinking into what voice? If we can realize in the mind at one moment, at one time, the true mind or natural knowledge will be separated from the movement of the mind to be a pure mind or a pure natural knowledge to stand alone. As for the movement of the mind, it is still doing its duty to give value to everything. As for a pure mind or a pure natural knower, it is also doing its duty to know what the movement of the mind gives value to. A pure mind or a pure natural knower will be gotten the wisdom that the movement of the mind is what's being known. What's being known by who? What's being known by a natural knower? Was being known by the real mind. The symptoms in the mind are continually concocted every time, all the time. The symptoms of the mind are continually appearing, changing, and disappearing, appearing, changing, and disappearing back and forth all the time. The movement of the mind is continually thinking, creating the ideas, producing the feeling in the mood in the mind that is called emotions. Thinking and then stop, and then thinking again. Explaining the story, expanding that story, giving value to the concrete object, and giving value to the abstract objects. That is, it is born and died all the time. When you see a variety of many symptoms in the mind so often, more and more, the mind will get the wisdom that these symptoms in the mind are not related to the mind. These symptoms are the natural phenomena in the mind only. These are what are known by the mind. If the mind understands at this level, this is the third level of understanding Dharma called Anata. Or sometimes we call Anata is the selflessness or non-self. Impermanence is the first level of understanding Dharma. Suffering is the second level of understanding Dharma. But these two levels are still love wisdom. Seeing the third level of understanding Dharma is called Anata, of selflessness or non-self. Everything will be destroyed by this wisdom. Impermanence, suffering, and non-self will be destroyed by the wisdom of Anata too. Everything will only be seen as what has been known. It is so, it cannot be said, it becomes unspeakable as to what it is. That is, there will be only one duty knowing. There's nothing else to say. You cannot say anything anymore because every word is not from the real mind. Every word is a thought from the movement of the mind, not from the real mind. Who is listening to this Dharma? Can you understand the content of this Dharma today? If you're not, please listen a lot. All the Dharma that I have said, you must listen to a lot. Listen to this Dharma many times until you feel that your understanding is started already. The attainment of enlightenment will be available to you in this lifetime as well. Achieving enlightenment is not about being a monk or a villager or being a woman, a man, or being a child, a children or an adult, or being a novice or a disabled person. We are already to attain enlightenment. Being a monk is the mind, is not the body. Only the mind is the Buddha. Only the mind is the Dharma. Only the mind is the Sangha. Only the mind is the Arahant. Only the mind is Nirvana. The mind is liberated by wisdom. None of us to be at all. We don't have anything to be. Our existence must be extinguished. The only thing left is a natural knower, the real mind. The movement of the mind still manipulates the thoughts and the emotions as normal. The concrete objects and abstract objects still work as normal, but a natural knower or the real mind will separate itself to stand alone, seeing all of them working. A natural knower will know all processes in all movements of the mind. A natural knower will see all thoughts and emotions which are appeared, changed, and disappeared back and forth in all movements of the mind. So, the mind knows. The mind is the only one who knows. The mind is called the knower, the awakened, and the joyful. This is a symptom of the mind that we must practice to reach, to inform, and to manifest in the mind. There must be a condition known as enlightenment happening with the mind. It is a goal that we have to practice towards at this point. Saying that practice Dharma means doing nothing. Practice Dharma means listen. Only listen and listen. Listen to all the Dharma that I have said. Listen to it 100 times. Depends on you until you understand, right? We will continue to understand now. We are going to reverse the current of the mind. Turn back to the original of the current of the mind. The mind won't send the current of the mind, out of the body. It will only reverse the current back to the mind, to the real mind. Because now we do not progress, we do not develop in the Dharma practice because we have sent the current of the mind, outside the body. We send the current of the mind to the outside of the body to flow with form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and follow emotions. We never reverse the current of the mind to flow back into the mind. The Buddha therefore said, "Do not send your mind outside. Let the mind awaken within." Finally, Buddhism Core Episode 11 therefore concludes that do not send your mind outside. Let the mind awaken within, because when the mindset is consciousness within the mind will see all movements of the mind itself. The mind will see all movements of itself, preaching the Dharma that the movement of the mind itself is impermanence, suffering, and selflessness. See you next time. Bye bye. สวัสดีครับ